Let me introduce myself. I'm still Greg Beltzer, Chief Customer Officer for AI and Agentforce. I am 94 days into the job, former CIO at RBC Wealth Management in the US. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Molly Bodensteiner. I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations here at Engine.
Yeah, hey, Greg. I'm Dimitri Salvaggio, Vice President of Customer Experience and Operations at Engine.
Good to meet you both. The reason they're letting me do this is I'm coming from the customer angle, right? The whole point is to share some of the learnings along the way, really get into actionable tidbits versus marketing sound bites as far as what your journey has been like, what's the impact been to Engine. So tell me a little bit about what Engine does and where you compete in the marketplace.
Engine is a modern travel platform, really built to make seamless the booking experience for all things lodging, flights, and rental cars. So we are a marketplace for lodging, flights, and rental cars. And we have over 1 million travelers on our platform. Last year, we had our Series C. We were evaluated over 2.1 billion. And we...
Congratulations.
Yeah, appreciate that. We're experiencing 60% growth year over year as well.
Molly, from your standpoint, why did you guys look at Salesforce?
We started using Salesforce about 6 years ago as we looked at how we build that two-sided marketplace, right? We've got our supplier relationships, but we also have our customer side of things. We really wanted to make sure we had a centralized platform for managing the customer and the seller experience. And that's really where Salesforce came into place and has been that ecosystem and infrastructure, not only from Service Cloud, but also Sales Cloud. And then a year later brought Slack into the fold too, which is really our digital workforce for our, we have offices, we have 5 offices, but majority of our team is remote and Slack is that digital headquarters.
So we already have a foundation. We got sales and service. We got Slack. Looking at Agentforce. Now, when was the first time, Dimitri, you heard of Agentforce?
Yeah, we've been fortunate to have a really close relationship with Salesforce. And, to that point, the back half of last year, Agentforce and the new technology was, getting talked about. And we had the opportunity to go at our first use case in the chat channel. And so in the chat channel is where we stood up what we call today Ava, Engine's virtual assistant. That first use case we went at was this cancellations use case. We were receiving a lot of contacts on a daily basis for cancellation requests. And we thought, hey, let's start small and let's start with this cancellation use case. And then, what also really excited us about, Agentforce and just the agentic AI, right, was this opportunity to get more conversational in chat and a little bit less clunky and throw a link at everyone that's asking for something. And you could just naturally tell when you're interacting, it's not very human centric. And so that was the other element I think that excited us about it early days. We saw early success really early on from it.
When Ava first came out, you built it off the FAQs, right? You built it off your knowledge base, right? That's how you basically grounded it. Talk to me about those early days. How many nights did you lose sleep as you redid the prompt in your head, trying to get it to actually work? Let's talk about the early days, and then we're going to get to the fun stuff of where you guys are today.
We launched her in 15 days, so in less than 2 weeks, right? So we really put a time box around this and said, let's make sure we take high value use case that we know we can be successful with and run a pilot. And I think that's one of the things that mindset has really driven our ability to innovate and adopt quickly. But when it comes to the topics, we started real broad on those topics. I think over 15 different topics that we had launched with. And one of the things that we really learned is you've got to look at how your customers interact with the chatbot and align that to how you're writing your prompts and how you're thinking about your topics. We went super specific and saw high failures and high inability to service the right way because we weren't thinking like our end users.
Number one, I would not beat yourself up over that. No one was a prompt expert instantly in 2024. So I give you a pass on that. One of the challenges you said you had was look, we really needed to look at the logs. We need to look at what the interactions were while we're failing out.
I think some of the pain points, maybe early days, right, was the observability piece for us. I think now, right, that are trying to, take that step with Agentforce, I think, the luxury that they do have, right, is things like Agentforce Studio are at their fingertips. And it
would have been nice, wouldn't it, last winter? Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%.
So as you guys have continued to evolve, your first action was doing the cancellations, right? Which is a big use case. What was next?
So on the service side, right, continuing to expand Eva's use cases. So looking at name changes as other use components that we could see from like our ticket perspective. But for me and like the rest of the business, as we looked at a high value use case that was taking a lot of administrative time away from high impact work. And so started to identify other areas of the organization where that same fundamental logic applies. And one of those is within our inbound sales organization. So that's where we launched V, which is our inbound SDR function that's doing qualification.
So this next use case, you took a service opportunity, helped with revenue. Tell me some of the struggles you had with that as you started to evolve the agents and started to have these different names. What was some of the problems that you had along the way?
Agent to agent handoffs, right? So like that was something that we couldn't handle necessarily and made additional complexity, especially as we went from Eva being, a customer facing agent to May, which is our internal, and Chloe, which is our internal support agent, being able to take those right handoffs and workflows to see kind of end to end. I think our first priority is to continue chaining kind of our internal agents right now, which is what the team's working on with the most recent release, though.
And internally, when you rolled out your internal agents, has adoption been great? Has there been issues with that? Has there been any negative pushback, or everything is just sunshine and roses and we're all living our agentic lives happily?
Things that we've done really well from a change management perspective is like, this is very tops down. I talk to a lot of other colleagues in the space that are like, man, we can't get anything done, right? We have so many ideas and lots of PowerPoints. And I'm like, we get things moving because we have that narrative from the top that this is how we are as a business.
I think we also did a good job of kind of having AI champions when we were rolling things out on the service side. What we kind of refer to as our center of excellence. We had a group of leaders and a group of agents that really understood the why and what we were doing that could also help be that feedback loop when we were rolling things out, with what they were seeing early days. And I think that also goes a long way as well. And it's something that companies should think about.
All right. So this is Greg's opinion. Every LM is designed and trained to find your bad data and surface it first to give an hallucination before it gets the quality data. I'm assuming you had some data challenges along the way. Nobody's data is perfect. How did you handle that internally?
So for us, right, when we talked about our first use case of cancellations and like launching Eva, it was really focused on like, what data readiness do we need, right? What is the minimal viable data that we need to make sure is 100% accurate from a customer experience standpoint? And so it was coming up with like, what is that required information that we need and we need to make sure is accurate. So when we think about the customer profile, the booking history, like the internal things that we need from the APIs, and like keeping it small and standing or adding additional things in as we go. And the work that we did, in parallel with getting Data 360 up and running launch was super impactful. I think that's allowed us to also move quicker, but it's also been a forcing function as we think about our data governance and our data quality too. Our goal was, perfect became the enemy of good. So like we really focused on like what's good enough to prove value, and then we keep moving on top of it.
The agentic world is almost a forcing function on your data. It will put more pressures on your data that hasn't been exposed before. So 100% agree with that and think that's great advice. I usually say your data, your integrations, and your process are what it's going to expose instead of solve, right? And so you need to be thinking about all three of those. So I love that journey. All right, so here's where you get to tell the street how it is. What do you need from Agentforce that we don't have for you today? How can the product deliver more? What can it do better?
I think Tableau Next is so critical to the observability and like the reporting components of this. Like, let's get really on rails as we think about like the semantic layers and like how we get this launched to like be a true value add and make it easy, right? Like right now it's almost too hard to use, and it shouldn't be.
Right. That's the antithesis of AI, right? It should just work, especially for your data jockeys who want to be able to leverage everything that you've built within Tableau.
And then, yeah, and as you guys have enterprise search coming out with Slack as well as like Slackbot, like let's make everything just really play nice together. Oh, and the other thing that we want is we want to make sure we have versioning so we don't have to create 2 separate agents.
You think the granularity of version of agents, your DevOps process as you move it from lower environments to upper environments, that is all on the roadmap. But definitely, it just comes with it, right? It's not a big deal when you only have a few agents. When you have 100, all of a sudden that becomes a little more onerous. Dimitri, you get the last word, buddy.
Things like voice naturalization. Voice is a big one, right? Like what really excites us is we can start to leverage Agentforce and think of it as a bit of a one-stop shop. So when we do build in a channel, we build once and it plays across them all, right? And there's less tech debt. I know you guys have had some maybe recent acquisitions as well that might start to hit a little bit more at process mining and some of this stuff. But this part really excites me as well, right? Is like if we could get some velocity around leveraging agents to look a little bit more end to end for that analysis, and then come back and look at the script, so to speak. I think like that becomes a really interesting world for us as well too, and in a world where we can continue to serve faster, continue to serve better, and ultimately for us it's customer at the center of everything. That world gets exciting as well for me thinking about it.
Excellent. So look, fantastic customer story. You guys have definitely been through the trenches. And, customers starting today definitely have advantage over what you and I have had to go through to get where we are. Look, we'll keep up the conversation even after this. I think you guys are doing some really cool things. Say hi to the girls for me. I hope they keep doing a good job. And talk to you again soon.
Really appreciate it. Thanks, Greg.
See y'all. Bye.